Hey guys, hope all is well. This is episode 51 of the Rugby Recap. You have myself, Rugby H, as well as the Q lads. First of all, man, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, Tim. There is a lot of rugby on this weekend. Super Rugby, we've got the Sevens back, which of course is going to be hectic, and then a little bit of Champions Cup semi-final just around the corner as well. Super Rugby this week, how are you feeling about it? I feel like there's some matchups that feel like they're technicalities rather than contests at the moment. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, yeah. I think out of all the weeks we've had so far in Super B, it's definitely not like a harsh thing to say that it's not like the exciting week that we're kind of looking forward to. But again, it's still going to be interesting to see kind of what happens because we'll go over of course Super B first. But before we get into it, just make sure to kind of like the video, guys. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and definitely leave a comment, guys. I want to see more of you commenting because we haven't seen that much in the last few videos. So definitely leave a comment, letting us know just what your thoughts on the podcast overall, and also just in terms of what you guys think about each of the competitions we'll talk about. But yeah, I mean, with Super B, of course, we'll just go straight into it. The first one being Hurricanes versus the Waratahs. Again, this game is going to be, I mean, I could see this, in all honesty, being a demolishing, but I could be completely wrong here. Maybe the Waratahs surprise me because they have been known to do that this season, but I can't think of a game where they've surprised me away, though. Like the only one I can think of where they were like at least good to watch was the one against Fiji and Drua. But again, but it's not one like where I expected them to win because I think we both predicted in that game the Fiji and Drua to win that one. So it's one of those where yeah, I mean going into this, it's going to be fascinating to see because I know that they've rested, well not rested, but Barrett Geordie is off the bench for this one, and they've actually named Billy Proctor as the captain. So it's interesting to see kind of a shift in terms of that center spot because it'll be him and Riley Higgins and then 12-13. But yeah, in terms of that, they've also made a few changes in terms of the props. But what's your take in this game overall?
Demolishing, Tim. Demolishing is
Hey,
a strong
I,
word
I just want to say it
for
off the
a
back.
unpredictable competition, and also for a side. We've got to remember the Hurricanes lost their first game last week. For the
Yes.
first time this season, they tasted that defeat. So what
Yeah.
does that do to the confidence? I'll be honest, I don't think they'll make as many changes as they did for this
Yeah.
week after losing to the Brumbies. I would have thought you'd try and get what was on the field working. I think that Peter Lakai and that loose ball trio alongside Flanders and Yorsi is just going to cause some real problems for the Waratahs. But I don't see the Waratahs as a side who will want to take a backward step in this matchup. I feel like they'll really want to try and do well at Sky Stadium. Can they do it, though? It's probably a bit of a different story. We'll
Yeah.
wait and see. Hopefully it's a close game. But I am in favour of the Hurricanes for this matchup. I don't know if we're going to get a demolishing. What would be a demolishing scoreline
I
in your opinion? Like 30 points?
Well, no, I was going to say more than 20. I say more than
Okay.
20 is what I would say. But in terms of the difference, by the way, I'm not just saying like if they go 30 or higher. I'm saying it'll be a 20-point difference in terms of
Okay.
because it's one of those like where I can just see it like again. Yes, the Waratahs, they need to win this game because when I look at the table right now, they're only sitting in what 11th position, so they need to definitely get up that
Mm.
table if they want any chance in getting to the playoffs and kind of a good towards the end of the season, just being in a good position to kind of take it. But it's this kind of game where they should be trying to target because the Hurricanes haven't gone with their best lineup. But at the same time, the Hurricanes, just in my opinion, coming off that defeat, which you mentioned against the Brumbies last week, it'll make them even more just, I guess, more ready and pumped to kind of go back and towards that winning form. So I kind of feel bad as the Waratahs that's kind of going to just be in that position because I think the Hurricanes are going to go on a rampage here. But again, you never know. I could be proven wrong by the Waratahs. They could have a flurry of tries, which kind of stops the kind of momentum of the Hurricanes early on, and then they'll have to kind of crawl their way back into it if they want to get a comeback. But you never know. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But I'm definitely in favor, like I said, of this maybe being a high scoring, definitely in favor of the Hurricanes. And so yeah, I'm gonna bet the Hurricanes, and I assume you're gonna do the same. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you
Yeah,
go.
I
There you
am, yeah.
go. Okay, so moving on towards the next one, we do have Alexa, the Rebels versus Blues, the second game of that Friday. It's gonna be fascinating because, in all honesty, this is the one where I'm not just saying because I'm a Blues fan, but I think honestly this could be the game which will be the best to watch because I think the Rebels are a very open team in terms of the way they play. So it's like attacking rugby, but also in doing that they also allow the opponent to kind of get a lot of tries on them. So it's kind of the way they kind of allow that they play the game. And again, it's actually been in their favor from a lot of these games. We've seen them do this against the likes of the Highlanders, against Fiji and Drua, so that's 2 impressive wins there. Like, they've been able to get some home form. So I'm definitely not saying this is going to be a game where the Blues can run away with it. I actually don't think that. I think the Rebels actually they have a chance. They actually have a chance in winning this game. And going off the back of what we saw last week in that Blues-Reds game, anything can happen. So I'm looking forward to this one. Again, what's your take on this one? Because I'm interested to hear yours.
See, it's a little bit similar to that Hurricanes team in terms of the fact that the Blues are making a few relatively crucial changes. I think PJ Sheck at number 3 be very intriguing here because up against the Crusaders, the Rebels scrum just really struggled and they weren't able to get any front foot going. They had to make their subs within the first half, which was a good choice or else they were going to end up probably having a man go to the bin. I think that a player that everyone is looking at here to really step up is Taniela Tupou. And if he's able to, the red scrum may be competitive, but if he's not, then it could be a very tough day at the office again for the Melbourne Rebels here. So I am saying the Blues are going to win this one, and I think that, yes, the Rebels backline has been very strong throughout the season, but we saw in that game up against the Crusaders, perfect example of if you can't get that ball out that backline because your forwards aren't doing the work and the breakdown, there's no point having those world-class wingers out there on the wing.
Yeah, I think from a Rebels perspective, I think the one thing which I kind of saw from the game they played last is that they have to work on their lineouts because it's one of those where with Jordan Uwasi, he's I hate to say it, but his lineout throwing it's never got better. Like I'm hoping each season he can kind of improve on it, but it's just something which he hasn't been able to kind of, I don't know, maybe it's just something he can't fix that kind of percentage. It hasn't gone higher really in my opinion. So that's kind of something that could let them down. But at the same time, when you look at that back line, it is stacked with talent. And all of them have been incredible, I think. Like every single person in that back line has done their job this year. So it's one of those where they definitely have the ability to kind of break that Blues defense. And again, we saw that last week against the Reds. I was kind of saying how this Blues defense is up there with the very best in this competition. And the Reds kind of just tore them apart, especially Tim Ryan with that hat trick. So it's one of those where the Rebels definitely have the capability in doing that. But then, of course, when you look at the Blues, team, they're obviously stacked with talents, from forwards to backs, and they definitely have the bench to kind of cover that as well. One name I actually do want to talk about quickly, because I'm not even sure we've mentioned this within our podcast, is that Cameron Safoa, of course, is going to be come onto the bench here, and he's returning. But I'm not sure if you know this, but it was announced recently on social media that he actually was going through kind of cancer in a way. Like he had cancer. He was going through some kind of I can't tell you which one, but I know that he was going through cancer essentially, and that's what's kind of stopped him from playing a lot of games. But I'm surprised because I knew he was playing. He's gone in and out of games. Like he hasn't played obviously every game, but it's like depending on his case where he's available. But it's good to see him obviously be available for this game because yeah, man, that's just it's tough for anyone, but just for him, as an athlete, just to kind of continue playing while you have this while you're going through this kind of treatment. Or I think to what my knowledge was is that it's already ended, but still, obviously, he's still a bit weak. And he's kind of getting his strength back, so it's just good to see him back in that case. But yeah, no, just in terms of your prediction, what are you you're going with the Blues or for the Rebels for this one?
Yeah, I'm going with the Blues. I think that, to be honest, though, if there was ever a time that a side's going to go from nil last week and getting what some people would describe as a hiding to then going on to win a game, you got to look at Moana Pacifica and what happened with them. Like the Super Rugby competition this year, if there's ever a time it's going to happen, it's now, but it's not this game. I'm going the Blues. Like, how do you go from losing by so much to then beating a side by 3 points? That's what I don't understand, but that has been a summary of this year's competition. Look at the Brumbies. They got absolutely...
It was incredible what they did.
Banged by the Blues.
Incredible.
And then they come back and beat the Hurricanes.
Yeah, I was so impressed by them. So impressed. Like, they just... Yeah, they were really good. Again, we'll also talk about them in terms of that game. But just from that Rebels game, because I forgot to mention that was like I think that was probably the lowest points of their season, that game against the Crusaders. So they kind of have to do, like you said, against what the Brumbies did against the Blues, kind of reverse it around in this game and hopefully get a result from this. But again, I will obviously back the Blues. I just think they have the talent to do it. I know that they're bringing Caleb Clark back into the starting lineup as well. Interesting to see that AJ Lamb is starting as a 12, though. So I'm fascinated by that because, again, he does have the size to do it. But, like Bryce Heem, he's just kind of like an unsung hero of the Blues, really, because we've needed to fill the position for a long time. And, we've gone from Sonny Bill to RTS, and that didn't really pay off. So now we have Bryce Heem, and he's actually done really well for the Blues. So it's one of those where we'll see how it works with AJ Lamb. You never know. But again, I mean, that Blues team definitely are going off an extreme kind of high by beating the Reds last week, and hopefully they continue that form going into this game against the Rebels. But again, moving on towards the next game of this round, we do the likes of Mono Pacifica versus the Highlanders. This one actually, in terms of the standings, probably is the most important one, I'd say, out of all the games that we're going to see this week, because they're both obviously, of course, in a similar position, and this is a game where I could be wrong in saying this, but I think whoever wins this game still has a chance to go into the playoffs. Who doesn't? If you don't win this game, I don't think you're making the playoffs. That's how crucial I think this game is going to be. Because when I look at the fixtures for both these sides in the coming weeks, it's one of those where I don't see a lot of opportunities for them to get wins. So I honestly think it comes down towards you need to win this game. Just keep it simple. You need to win this game. That's what both sides need to go into this. Again, I've seen they've made a lot of switches in terms of both sides. Like I've seen Christian Leafano starting at the 10, William Avili shifted towards the 15, so that's interesting. Anisi back in the starting place, number 8. For the Highlanders, I see that Miller, I believe, is the 10 for this one, replacing Reese Patchell. Who else? There was remind me, is there any switches for the Highlanders that I'm forgetting? I think there was
Gilbert off the bench with Garden Bishop at centre, and also I think it's Jake T. Huey, I think it is.
Yes,
at number 13.
Yeah. I'm not sure, because I like their the lock pairing actually. I looked at Dunshay and Fabian Holland. That's a solid lock pairing actually for the Highlanders. So I'm interested to see how that goes along. But yeah, in terms of this game, kind of who you kind of swaying towards.
Well, you've also missed out on an opportunity to talk about the fact that it is in Nuku Alofa for this game. So it's going to be a home game for the Tongans.
It is.
And, I guess you could also say the other Pacific Island nations as well. This one.
I actually didn't know that. Is it?
Did you know?
No, I haven't actually seen that this game has been played in.
Nuku Alofa is not in the North Island.
But what? No. Wow. Okay, that's great. I mean, that's great for Mono Pacifica. That's awesome. Yeah.
So with that in mind, Tim, does that change your prediction at all for this game?
It could, honestly, because it's one of those like where it's good to have like a new place where you're playing at least, because that does kind of come into the your thinking in a way. I mean, the Highlanders, like, yes, they got the win against the Western Force, but I'm so happy.
What do you think of that game? What do you think of that game?
I'm so happy I didn't watch that game, by the way. So happy I didn't watch that game. Like, my dad put it on, and I was like, okay, like, what's the score? And he's like, okay, it's just 5. I think it was like 5-0. I was like, okay. Went to the gym, came back. I saw my phone, 7-5 full time. I'm like, okay, what a terrible game that must have been. So I watched the highlights, but man, I'm happy I didn't watch it live. And again, going off that game, I'm not sure if I want to pick them. Again, Mono Pacifica, they actually played on a right game against Fiji and Jura as well. Because, again, they kind of came back into the game late into that second half, but it just wasn't enough. So I'm actually going to back Mono Pacifica. I think Mono Pacifica is the team I'm going to back in this one. It could be a bold call, but we'll didn't see. What about yourself?
I'm going to go with the Highlanders again, just because I feel like they can't keep on doing this each and every week. We're waiting for that big game that we're like, oh, so that's the side that we saw in preseason, and that's the side that we saw throughout the first couple of rounds. Yeah. They look like the real deal. Since then, they've really struggled to, I guess, do that. So, maybe it's going into overseas territory, like really overseas compared to Australia. Getting over there and and get into their work and trying their best to get the away win. I'll go them, but I'll only go them by probably less than 10. Less than 7, in fact, I'd say.
Okay. So it'll be a close game for you from what you're saying.
I hope
so
but not 7-6.
Exactly,
because no one wants to sit through that again.
Oh gosh, that could be now. See, again, I haven't seen the full game, so I'm not sure I can say completely it's the worst game so far this season, because still I'd have to argue that Waratahs Blues one was pretty hard to watch.
Bad one.
That was pretty hard to watch, but but anyway, moving on then towards the Crusaders versus Reds. This is a game which is I think there's a lot of kind of stuff to talk about in this game, because I mean, from a Crusaders point of view, they're coming off a win, which is not something you can say that often this season, and they were excellent against the Rebels. They kept them to no points, so that's just exactly what I want to do, and that's even more impressive than getting the 39 points I think they got. So it's, yes, they could have got even more in the game, but it's more impressive to keep a kind of a clean sheet. So I was really impressed by that. Again, the Crusaders, they just looked like their normal selves. The question is, are they able to do this once again against the Queensland Reds? Like, what's your take for this game?
Well, there's some interesting choices in the lineup for the Crusaders, including a return. Well, a debut.
I think it's a debut, actually. Yeah.
Opportunity for him at number 15. Was supposed to be playing near the start of the season, ended up with the injury, but now gets the chance here. And it's going to be weird, to be honest, because last time we saw him in kind of like a reddish kit, it was Wales. But now, going to be playing for the Crusaders at home. Is it going to have any impact in terms of the Reds' mentality for this game? Absolutely not. They're going to go for it. They're going to throw everything at it. I am interested to see how Tim Ryan goes, because he became a little bit of an unsung hero in that game up against the Blues, but he was so close, yet so far away from getting themselves and him the victory there. I think that the tricky part here for the Reds is I've had so many close games with New Zealand sides in some regards this season, like really close. Like they went to Golden Point up against the Hurricanes. They lost it. They almost went to Golden Point up against the Blues and they lost it. So how much does that impact your team when you're getting so close, yet you're just one hurdle away from getting that victory? Does that motivate you more, or does that deplete your morale a little bit?
I think it does deplete them. It's similar to what I was saying with that Rebels, kind of like how they've gone through that kind of like just having nil points. Then you want to bounce back, like what the Brumbies did. So yeah, we'll see what happens here with the Queensland Reds. When I'm looking at like their team, it's actually a really kind of strong team. They had Fraser McWright back, which is the big addition. He's kind of served his suspension. I believe Tim McDermott is still out. I think he'll be available from next week onwards. But I mean, looking at this, I mean, their team, they definitely have the players to do it. I mean, Hunter Asami was incredible last week against the Blues. I think he was probably you could honestly, yes, I know people. I mean, I think he was actually given the awards, a 2-2, or was it a 2-2? I think he was like given the player of the match for that game, but it should have been Tim Ryan just for what he did. And then I think the third choice in that game would have been.
Although you could argue for Tim Ryan, like we were talking about it as well on the stream that I did. Like his first 2 tries, 90% of when he should have been able to finish.
Yeah.
But the one that really stood out in terms of Tim Ryan and kind of made the name for himself was that third try. The way he carved through and then just accelerated. And, when you have a game like that, it's like we said about how will the Reds back it up. How will he back it up? When you've probably played the best game that you may, no offense, Tom, I'm sure he's got a bright future, but this might be that game last week, the best game. It might be the best game he plays this year. It might be the best game he plays in the next 5 years. And
you never know.
How do you back that up?
I look, this is a bold claim to make, but from what I saw from that game, I actually mentioned it at the end of my live stream. I said,
"Oh, you're not already putting him in the Wallabies, are you?"
No. I actually, well, funny enough, I actually made my Wallabies video on that, literally on that day. So I thought, I'll talk about him, but I'm obviously not going to put him in. I didn't put him in, but just, I have to talk about him because it was kind of, Joe Schmidt was there to see it. And, he definitely has him now in the mind of things in terms of that kind of position. But no, I'm not saying he's at the Wallabies. But what I did say though was that he can have the same kind of jump to what Reiko did early on in his career, like where he scored a hat trick on his debut, and then throughout the season he obviously developed a lot more, and then he got called up. For Tim Ryan's situation, of course, he's only done this like probably past the halfway mark of Super B. So in my opinion, I think it's too late for him to get called up. So that's just my take. Again, you guys can obviously tell me in the comments, but yes, he does have to back it up in terms of the games he has to play. He has to be consistent in terms of just produce it, get a try assist, get a try. Like just show us that it's not like a one-time thing. That's the main thing that I think all the coaches want to see, particularly Joe Schmidt, because I've seen a lot of the kind of Wally players say that the one thing Joe Schmidt is asking them is consistency. So that is the main thing that will determine if they get picked or not. So he just has to show that. But look, in terms of this game, I think the Crusaders are definitely the favorites going into it, because I mean when I look back at the Reds, I mean honestly the Reds I can't think of a game like in terms of where they're beating the Crusaders ever. I can't honestly think of it. Like the last time I think they did that was back in the Super B final. That's the last time I can recall. That's pretty bad for me. Maybe you guys can tell me when was the last time it happened. But I know that they actually a lot of the times are beating the Chiefs. They always have their number in a way, the Reds, and that's out of all the teams. But this one, I'm just very comfortable in saying that the Crusaders are going to win this. I think just simple as that, and would not be surprised if Separis gets another try to his name. So yeah, that's kind of what my take is for that one.
I'd agree. I think that the Crusaders have got a good shot walking away with a victory here. Some interesting changes, of course, like I mentioned, but I think it should work. I think that they're starting to find their form, and I think that that's making a lot of other teams a little bit unhappy at the moment. Tom Christie, he caused a few feathers to be ruffled a couple of weeks ago when they got defeated by the Force. He said, even though they weren't playing good rugby at the moment, if they start firing, like he believes they can beat any side in the Super Rugby competition.
Yeah.
And so many people were like, don't say that, Tom. Just go away, Tom. Yeah. Stop talking, Tom, because they don't want to believe it, but it's kind of true. And it's kind of concerning for the other sides. I talked about it on the stream as well. I said, imagine if the Crusaders finish 8th and they knock out the team at the top of the bunch in the quarterfinals. I
said this could happen. I've literally said this like several times. I don't want the Blues to face the Crusaders. I don't want it to happen. I'd rather I would face any other team happily, just not the Crusaders. It is the worst time to face them. So I do not want that to happen. But again, it is probably written in the stars that it's going to happen, because knowing the Blues, which I'm hoping they still do, is beat the Hurricanes later the following week. And that will eventually put us in a good spot for the top of the table. And then, of course, the Crusaders will be in a they'll be in a prime position to get 8th place or even 7th, depending on obviously the results that happen. So we'll see what happens. But again, I mean, from a Crusaders standpoint, the other player I wanted to talk about was Cullen Grace, actually, because I've noticed recently that they've been putting him as the 6th option now with Christian Leo Willie playing number 8. And honestly, like this is something where I'm not saying it's going to get into the All Blacks, but he is now more of a chance if he plays in that 6th position than 8, I think, Cullen Grace. Because the All Blacks, we're not doing a whole thing about the All Blacks here, guys, but I'm just saying in terms of 6s, that is still a place up for grabs. So if Cullen Grace continues to play there, then he has a good chance. That's all I'm going to say for the meantime. But again, just like we said, I think we're both backing the Crusaders for this game. So moving on towards the next game, it is the Chiefs versus the Western Force. This is another one where I want to use the same word, but I'm trying to think of another word. It could be a smashing. Let's just say a smashing. A smashing from the Chiefs are going to smash the Force. That's kind of the way I can see it in this one. Again, the Force were a part of that horrible game that happened with the Highlanders, and the Chiefs had a pretty good game, actually, against the Warthus last week. Again, it was kind of going back and forth, but the Chiefs did well to obviously prevail. And I think this is a game where they're definitely going to do pretty well. Looking at their lineup, I mean, I can see they've made a few changes with Daniel Rona going into the 11 spots. They've put Nana Saturo, I believe, at the number 15 for this game, which is interesting to see. But it could be nice. I know Sean Stevenson. You have to remind me because I don't have it right in front of me. Is he starting? Is he on the bench, or is he just not a part of this game?
He's not a part of this game. I think they've got Ioane 23, and then I think they're actually going with a 6-2 split. The Chiefs in this contest.
Yeah, I saw that. It's good to see, the box influence there, the box influence. But no, the Chiefs are they just have a strong team. There's not really anything much to say. I know that Sumisoni Takagaho is, I believe, he's not even in this game, if I'm not mistaken, as well. They're starting. Is Slater starting for this one, or is it? Yeah, it is Slater. So I'm trying to think of any other names I mean, I guess Moni Narwa has been doing pretty well recently in terms of getting tries, so I would expect him to kind of continue that form. I know Quintapaya looked pretty good last week as well. Aston Brown. I mean, they just have a solid team. But then when I look at the Western Force, I mean, yeah, it's. I mean, they have a good side. They have Prince up there, number 8. Is it the same print? Wait. No, that can't be the same.
It is the same Princep, Tim.
Is that Princep who played for the Hurricanes?
It is, yes.
What? Whoa, sorry. I'm just seeing this, folks. I need to search up how old this guy is. Princep Western Force. I didn't even know he played for the Western Force.
The Western Force have got some big signings this year in terms of like the list.
That's his name. Reed Prince. Well, I mean, yeah, they have a lot of. So he's 31.
He's not even that old, the Cantabrian. Well, I believe he's from Canterbury anyway. Plays for Canterbury in the Bunnings NPC.
No, he's a solid player. I'm actually surprised. Was he? Is this his first game for the Western Force? Or
no, he's probably at about 7.
Wow, okay, that's my bad. I actually haven't noticed that. I would have talked about him sooner, but no, he's a solid player to have at least in the number 8 spots. I mean, Dezana's been pretty well. I'd say number 7. He's a player to look out for. By the way, I actually mentioned him. I actually think he's a player that can make the Wallabies. I think there's a strong chance he can make the Wallabies because there's not a lot of 7s up there from a Wallaby standpoint within Super Rugby. Again, there could be 7s I'm unaware of and be outside overseas, but again, going off the players I picked overseas, there isn't enough space to put a 7 in there. So it's one of those where I know with Dezano, he's been up there actually with the most, I think, second most tackles in the competition as well. So he's done pretty well from a defensive standpoint, and he'd be kind of a different version of Fraser McWright in a way, because Fraser McWright is more all-rounded, but it's kind of good to have someone more defensive-minded as well off the bench if you needed that. So it could be an option, but no, yeah, I mean, Western Force, they have a solid team. I'm not saying they can't win this, but it's just one of those where it's just heavily favored towards the Chiefs. That's just kind of what I'm saying, folks. But well, I guess, are you going towards the Western Force by any chance, or maybe an upset here? No.
I don't know if this game is going to be the one that has the upset. To be honest, I don't even know if we're going to get an upset. But I looked it up. Reed Princep, he's had 6 games so far throughout his games, but he's only had 67 meters carried and 2 defenders beaten. So that may be why you haven't seen too much of him running the ball. But he's got a 92% tackling completion. It's actually higher than Carlo Tizzano's. Fun fact, he's made about half the tackles. I was
going to say, yeah. There's not a chance
that.
Yeah. No, Tizzano's done very well this season. So I know that Princep, he's still a solid player. And again, this game, you never know. Maybe Curly Bill gets a hat trick. Maybe maybe Joe Schmidt will be at the game and be like, you know what? We're gonna get you, man. We're gonna get you inside this.
I think the first thing that they need to do in this game before they start signing Curtly Beale to the Wallabies is just score a try, isn't it? Like, there have been rare occasions that we have seen, the Western Force in general. We've got to remember, the Rebels have had 2 games that they haven't been able to score themselves a try this year. Yeah, Western Force now fall into that category as well. They've had the one last week. No side has gone 2 weeks in a row without scoring a try in Super Rugby Pacific this year. Is this going to be a trend that continues? I could see the Chiefs bringing up 50 if they really get it right here. But then I could also see the Force. People thought the Crusaders were going to give them a bit of a smashing, as you say, but they didn't. They won, so who knows? I'm still going to the Chiefs, though. It's a hard one.
Fair enough. But we'll move on towards the final game, of course, being the Brumbies versus Fiji Drua. This is a game which will be, I guess, exciting to watch because both sides are kind of going off a good win from last week. Again, the Brumbies were very impressive in that win against the Hurricanes, breaking their winning record. And I mean, just Give me before you even talk into this game. I just feel like we have to give them props. Just what was your kind of just tell me what your thoughts on that game was, but just how you were impressed by what the Brumbies did in that one.
I have to say as well, it was quite obvious as a Blues supporter, your little smile coming through when you were saying that the Hurricanes lost the undefeated streak.
I did predict that last week, by the way, in our predictions. I said Brumbies to beat the Hurricanes. I did say it, but again, that was more of just in my favor. But hey, it turned out right. It turned out right. So I was loving every bit of it. But
yeah, they just outplayed the Hurricanes in that contest. And I was talking about this with my dad on the way home today. You know, we were carpooling and we were having a bit of a chat about the rugby. And we said that game between the Hurricanes and the Brumbies is the perfect example that this year, any side that played terrible rugby can and will be beaten. You know, like the Hurricanes had an awful game. And the other sides in the competition, they are strong enough, even if there's the argument of Australian sides not doing as well, which I disagree with. I think they've had a very good start to this year.
Has anyone said that?
Yeah, I've had it in the chat all the time. People saying the Australian sides are disappointing them week in, week out, and I said, "Where?
This is the best they've ever been. Like literally the best they've ever been." I can't believe people have said that. Actually,
you can't please everyone. I think is the best way of describing that. But we were saying, like, you know, you play a bad game of rugby, your opposition take their chances, you're going to struggle. So even though this game, like talking about the Brumbies here, theoretically, they are at home. GIO Stadium, tough stadium to beat the Brumbies at. We've learnt that New Zealand sides have gone there, failed time and time again. They've also had some victories. But the Drua in this contest, if they can play the better rugby and the Brumbies do fall into a little bit of an ill-disciplined trap, like the Drua are more than capable of being able to pull off the win. The problem that the Drua have, though, is that they do struggle away from home. And no matter how much we repeat that, and no matter how much some people like to say, nah, you're just jinxing it. We are, because they keep losing when they don't play at home. So if they can turn that around, we won't have to keep saying it. But until then, we have to say the Draw away from home just don't quite get the job done. But brilliant performance from the Brumbies up against Canes, and I'd be very, very disappointed if they, like we mentioned, they get dominated by the Blues. They come back and win up against the Hurricanes, and then if they just throw it away here up against the Drua and just create the biggest up and down, like that would have to be one of the biggest highs or lows to highs to lows.
It would be terrible.
In at least the last few years, wouldn't it? Being able to lose by so much, win against the top of the table undefeated side, and then lose to a side outside of the top 8 who haven't won an away game yet.
Okay. But let's just give a bit of props to the Fiji Drua are a very good outfit. Well, they
are,
a very
but
good
statistically, when you look through at what has happened this year away from home,
and they're in the top 8, by the way, they're 7th. So it's not so they're definitely they've had good performances, but again, like we've mentioned, they've been only at home. So it's one of those where the key thing in saying is if they win this, if you let the Fiji Drua get their first away win against you, then you've done something horribly wrong. So make sure it's not you. That's kind of the best scenario. And again, the Brumbies just have to just back up what they did against the Hurricanes and just bring it into this game. And again, I mean, look at the changes they've done. They've made Alan Alatoa back in the starting lineup, and he's captain of the side as well, which is great to see. Again, he's kind of gone through a lot for the injury he had last year that kind of made him. Was he? See, this is where my knowledge is a bit. I think he wasn't a part of that World Cup squad, if I'm not mistaken, because his injury didn't allow him.
He missed out just before. I think they actually missed out on a couple props, didn't they?
Yeah,
just before that World Cup.
Yeah, I think he was a part of that. It was
then Eddie Jones happened. Yes.
Again, like a lot of people don't talk about that, by the way. I'm not saying Eddie Jones. I mean, of course, a lot of things went wrong in that World Cup campaign for the Wallabies, but
including the selection.
But yes, this is something we can talk about this. That's a whole episode we can talk about, guys. But I will also just say that there was a lot of injuries that kind of prevented them and had to kind of going kind of different directions. So it's not like it was everything that Eddie did, because there's some stuff he can't control in terms of the injuries. Well, you think he controls the injuries?
Well, I just think that there was a lot more he could have done outside of the injuries that they had. I mean, you had a couple capable players. That you could have brought in for injured players.
That's the only thing I'm saying Eddie can, I don't know, can hold his hand up and be like, guys, what can I do about this? Everything else, he could have done so much better. He just there. I mean, if you haven't seen by the way, the Stan documentary about the Wallabies and that, go watch it. It's a great watch. Like for anyone who just loves watching chaos in terms of rugby, it is the best one you can watch. It is lovely to watch. But no. Again, with this game, going back on track here, the Brumbies, they still have a solid side. I mean, Tamati Tua was very impressive in that game against the Hurricanes, and kind of hoping that he can back it up here. He's another player which you're gonna have to. I actually need to know your take on this because I'm actually not sure, and this is why I didn't include him in my Wallabies kind of predictions. But is he available for the selection for the Wallabies? Because I know he's played for New Zealand under 20s and that, but I'm not sure if he's allowed to play for the Wallabies because I don't think he has there's a whole thing around residency and how many years you have to be in, and I honestly think he's only been at the Brumbies for 1 year, before this, before the start of, so it'll be after it'll be 2 years I think.
See, he was at the Blues in
that's what I know.
2022. But he also plays for Northland in the Bunnings EPC, which was the info that I knew, which makes it tricky to get selected, I think, for the Wallabies if you're playing provincial rugby in New Zealand. I feel like there's some sort of thing there. He might just be literally signed for an Aussie side, but he will be coming back to New Zealand afterwards type thing.
Okay. Fair.
But who knows? Maybe he's got a distant relative whose cat's friend was Australian and then he'll sign for the Wallabies.
Right, hopefully. You never know. I mean, I did see, unfortunately, there was a report going out that Hunter Sami is on the question board in terms of a transfer because I think Rugby Australia have only offered him a 1-year deal. And I think the Exeter Chiefs have offered him a deal. Again, there's not any confirmation, but there definitely has to be I think he's had an excellent year within Super Rugby, so he definitely deserves more than a 1 year. That's from my opinion. But again, we know Rugby Australia is a whole different kind of they just have a lot going on, so we don't obviously everything that's behind the scenes. But
what do you think of Carter Gordon going to league?
No.
What do you mean no? He said he's keen on the option of rugby league.
Oh,
future,
okay.
Perhaps.
Gosh, you scared me. I was like, is that confirmed? I was like, no.
He's heavily considering it.
What? That's really?
It's called money, Tim, and rugby league seem to have it in Australia.
But then, this is what I don't get. He's in prime position to start for the Wallabies at number 10. He could play in the British Lions tour, and he can play for the Wallabies in 2027. But he wants to go off to. Gosh. See, I'm more mad about this one if that's actually comes. Wait, again, it's not. It's just a rumor at the moment. It's not actually happening right now. But when it happened, when I saw when Mark Narakwantawasi was moving, I was like, okay, it's a bad thing for Rugby Australia in terms of a big talent. At the same time, they have options in that area that they can cover it. In this area, in terms of 10, it's one of those where I've been trying to ask for Wallabies need a new 10. And again, they've only in the past have had to kind of rely on old players like the likes of Quay Cooper and Foley, and I guess you've had Noah Sale for a bit of a term because he was under Dave Rennie for a bit. But then besides that, we haven't had a 10 since then. And again, we saw the likes of Ben Donaldson as well as Carter Gordon kind of step up in the World Cup, and they were actually probably Australia's 2 best players, just to be frank, in that World Cup. So. Gosh, that would be a blow if that actually happens. But we'll see. Well, again, this is just we'll see what happens on that front. But I guess in terms of this game, are we both going for the Brumbies or Fiji and Jura? You want Fiji and Jura?
I'm going to go with the Fiji and Jura. Why not?
Oh,
I said about how it was a bit up and down roller coaster, which is why I was planting the seed. And
I'm going for the Brumbies. I was always going for the Brumbies in this one. But
that's fair enough. No, I think the Drua no, maybe they'll win.
You never know. You never know. I mean, Crew,
that's pretty much the depth of my prediction. Is just I think that they have a decent enough crack to be able to get themselves the win. They've got Ravithamunda at 15 as well. A little bit of a switch up. You've gone very blurry, Tim. I feel like the connection did not like that prediction, but I did. I'm going to go with it. Yeah. Let's see whether or not it comes true or not, or whether the Brumbies can once again get themselves a nice victory.
So, of course, moving on from Super B is on to the Champions Cup. We're now going to semifinals of this week. So, pretty excited for this. Again, the two semifinals, of course, are Leinster versus Northampton and Toulouse versus the likes of the Harlequins. And yeah, this is going to be a nail biter, I think, for both ones, because I mean, I can't really say there's a favorite in either one, really, because I mean, yes, you would like to think Leinster are the favorite against Northampton, but Northampton have been pretty impressive this year. They've been very impressive. So I like to think they can give Leinster a challenge. Again, it's been playing in Ireland, so it's definitely not in their favor from that point of view. Maybe now questioning why I said maybe there may be a favorite. But you know what? I'm gonna back them. I'm gonna honestly just straight up say I'm gonna back Northampton to beat Leinster. I'm just say right there, they're gonna beat Leinster. Everyone's gonna be shocked, and then they're gonna be like, "Whoa, did you see that guy who just predicted that?" So that's me. I'm just calling it future right there. So I'm backing Northampton. What about yourself?
I'm not. I'm backing Leinster in this one because
I'm not doing what he did.
Like Leinster, they went through the same kind of stick as the Bulls did, which was going with a slightly weakened side for the last couple of rounds of the URC so that they can have all their players ready for this stage. Now, normally, the last 3 Champions Cup, they've found themselves up against La Rochelle, and they have been knocked out by La Rochelle, whether that's in a quarter, whether that's in a final. Now they've got the opportunity to finally say La Rochelle are behind us, and we are ready to move forward in the comp. They're up against Northampton Saints, who have been a little bit of a dark horse of this Champions Cup competition, mainly because of their incredible backline play, but a side that normally have a very strong backline as well, none other than Leinster. So I think it's going to be a fast-paced, epic game of rugby. I hope both sides do play their natural game, because that way we're going to get a heck of a game in front of about 80,000+, I think, is supposed to be in attendance for this contest. It's going to be an awesome game, and I'm going Leinster. But I wouldn't be surprised if Northampton really turn it up and make it into an epic contest. Now, you said that you didn't see really many favourites from these semi-finals, but to lose at home up against the Harlequins, the Harlequins got themselves the win up against Bordeaux, but that wasn't up against Toulouse. Toulouse scored 64 points up against the Exeter Chiefs. Yes, Harlequins got themselves a win up against Bordeaux, but I think that something that's going to happen in this game is that Toulouse will definitely come out of the gates firing. They've still got Dupont. They've still got just a world-class team. Can the Quins cause 2 upsets in a row? That's the question. They're known for it in the Gallagher Premiership. They went through a season how if they weren't down by 14 points at halftime, they weren't trying. And then they'll come back and they'll win the whole thing. So this is once again a dream matchup and a hard one to predict. But yeah, I'm going to lose, even though Seb's a Quins boy. Shout out Seb. He won't watch this far in the podcast, I don't think. But if he does, shout out to you, Sebastian. Your boys in the Quins kit have been doing all right. Yeah. But I think their run's going to come to an end here.
Yeah, I think no matter what, I was kind of angling towards Toulouse in this one. Because I can see kind of I think the final that's most likely going to happen is Leinster versus Toulouse, but I want at least one shock from one of the semifinals, and I think the bigger shock would be Northampton beating Leinster rather than Harlequins beating Toulouse. So,
I'd have to disagree there, Tim. I think that we're going to have to check the odds.
You think Toulouse have been better than Leinster?
I think that Toulouse, in terms of the home field advantage that a French side get in a competition. Yeah, so I've just found the odds. Leinster are $1.08 favourites with Northampton as $7.25 underdog. Toulouse are $1.03 favourites with Harlequins $11.50. So the Harlequins are the bigger underdog in this contest. I know that odds.
The Harlequins proved that wrong the last week. Like,
some people got very rich.
I remember this, by the way. You were repping up Bordeaux like, they're winning that game. I was like, okay, well, you know what? I think the Harlequins could do it, and they did it. So, you know what? I'm now changing my mind. I'm not going to go for Toulouse. I'm not going to go for Harlequins. It's going to be an all-English matchup, and everyone's going to be shocked when it happens. But you know what?
I'll be honest, Tim. I really don't want an all-English matchup for the final of the Champions Cup. I don't know about you, but no.
I'd rather have Leinster versus Toulouse, but I'm just gonna go with the obscure prediction and go with Northampton versus Northampton versus Harlequins, and hey, it'll be a good matchup if that happens. Finn Smith versus Marcus Smith. The battle of the Smiths there. But yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah. Okay, but
I like we can see it 2 times a year in the Premiership, can we?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, but it's on a bigger stage. It's on a bigger stage. That's the thing. Yeah. And again, Northampton have actually had, I believe, Harlequins number. I think was it? Have they played one game so far, right, against each other? Have they played the second game or no? I can't remember. I can't remember the other result. I know they played once for sure because I saw the highlights of one, but I can't remember the other one. Get that for me quickly.
I will just get the statistics.
Oh, here you go.
Harlequins very recently played them. I think it was last weekend, and they won 41 points to 32.
So that's the one I saw. So but have they played? Have they played before then? That's what I'm
earlier on in the season. I believe they would have played.
They must have played
mid rounds.
Yeah.
And in that game, as we build suspense, Northampton won 36-33.
There you go. So Finn Smith.
Yeah, but you can't just ignore that last result of Harlequins winning.
No, it's gonna be a good game. But anyway, either way, all 4 teams have definitely deserved to get into this spot. Just the question is who's gonna get past and obviously get towards that final. But again, moving away from the Champions Cup, we luckily are back in town for sevens. We have sevens back in town, and this time it's in Singapore. So yeah, I'm pretty excited for that. Again, looking at these groups, they are hectic as normal, as the groups are just. Yeah, it's crazy just to look at these groups. I think every time we look at this, how is it possible that there can be a group like that? But again, just going it through quickly, there's likes of Argentina, Australia, Canada, New Zealand in one group. Then you have the likes of France, Samoa, South Africa, Spain in one group. And then you have Fiji, Great Britain, Ireland, and USA. So they're all amazing. Again, just going straight into Pool A with Argentina, Australia, Canada, New Zealand. Out of those 4 teams, who do you think will advance to the quarter, plan towards the quarterfinals, but just if you name one key player, just in terms of each pool, that's all we're asked. Just one key player, you can decide.
Well, this group's a bit of a hard one, isn't it? Because Argentina haven't been playing their best rugby sevens recently.
They haven't, no.
And that could be because of the absence of Marcos Maneta, and he will not be returning for the finals in Madrid either, so that is a big hit for them. I'm going to say New Zealand topped the group. I'm going to say that Australia is second, and then I'm going to say Argentina are third, and they go through on the technicality of best third place team. But one player to watch out for in this one, it's hard to say a New Zealander because everyone always goes, "You're biased."
No, but they have a lot of good talent. Just say one. Say one of them.
No, we'll go an Australian. I'm going to go Nick Maloof in this one. I feel like he's really led from the front. For the Aussies, I mean, they've got some class players, though. Jimmy the Jet Turner out on the wing with his speed's going to be a handy enough player to watch out for. New Zealand, I mean, you could look through quite a few of their players, like Scott Curry. I remember watching that final that they were playing last leg, and he was pretty much on one leg, but somehow still managed to get himself over the try line. So, yeah, I'd say him as well. I'll go for 2. I like the rules.
Fair. I mean, yeah, I guess from my side of things, I'm kind of similar to you, where I'm thinking, yes, Argentina they weren't really impressive in Hong Kong. They actually finished bottom of the group, which is I can't believe that actually happened. But yeah, no, I think going into this one, yeah, I mean, New Zealand were excellent in that Hong Kong, and Australia actually they picked up a foreign, so they were good. Canada, they just they've been impressive. They've beaten both the likes of New Zealand and I think Australia this year so far. So they definitely can do it. Gosh, I just don't think, I don't know. They were just, New Zealand and Australia were so impressive in Hong Kong. So I think I just have to keep it simple. Just say, I'm actually going to go the same as you, I think. I just have to say New Zealand top, Australia second, Argentina third, and Canada fourth. I think it's one of those where that Canada-Argentina one could be closer than expected, but yeah, no, I'm going to go the same with you. I think I'm going to say with you. And then, yeah, in terms of this one, just in terms of my player to watch for this group, gosh, I mean, you said it Australian, so I won't say one of them. I kind of just want to say Gonzalez because he's just awesome. But you know what? Actually, see, I actually now want to say Michael Hooper, but no, I'll say Gonzalez. Gonzalez, he's just awesome for Argentina. So why not? But yeah, for this second group, of course, we do the likes of France, Samoa, South Africa, and Spain. Again, France did pretty well in Hong Kong. Obviously, getting towards that final, we're pretty impressive, I'd say, throughout the tournament. But yeah, it's one of those groups where I don't know what to think about it because South Africa, yes, they got to the quarterfinals, but they really kind of I don't know, they let me down because I thought they would do much better against Fiji, but in that quarter. But yeah, I mean Samoa, to be fair, they were all right. I'm not gonna say they were amazing, but I think to my knowledge they got out of the groups today did they get out of the groups for that Hong Kong?
Oh,
I'm not sure.
Samoa.
I don't think they did. Now that I think about it,
No.
yeah, I don't think they did actually. So yeah, it'll be fascinating to see what can. I mean, out of all the groups, I think this is definitely I'm not gonna say the easiest one to pick, but I'm just gonna straight up say France to top it, South Africa to come second. I'll then say Samoa to come. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna say Spain to come third, and then I will say Samoa to finish last. So yeah, I know that breaks your heart because you're kind of a Samoa fan, really. But so yeah, who are you gonna pick for this one? And again, sorry, before I forget, my player to kind of watch out for this one, I got to go with a box, so I'm going to go with Selvin Davis. So yeah,
it's only because you got a selfie with him, Tim.
Exactly, he knows why. He knows why. There you go. Anyway, okay.
So for myself, I am going to go. See, I think I've got to go France number 1, and I'm going to go South Africa 2 with Samoa as the 3. And I'm gonna say, even though I don't think they will, I'm gonna say they miss out on the quarterfinals again. Like when you look through at their injury list, like they are really up against it at the moment. Like I've got the injury list here because I'm such a Samoan fan. Here it is: Paul Scanlon, Taunu Levi, Levi Milford, Noelle Letufia, Motu Opitai, BJ Lima, and Eliza Peta Alofipo. That is. If you put that team on the field, they've got a good chance of winning. If you put the team on the field that they're probably putting on the field,
you don't.
you don't. Yeah, it's not the greatest chance. Like even like when you look at those names missing, you'd probably even put them below Spain. But I'm gonna say that they go a little bit higher. I'm gonna say they finish in 3rd in that group. Player to watch out for. None of those guys.
But not to go through.
No.
Okay.
No. Who do I think's going to do well in this group? That's the big question. I feel like France need a little bit of loving every once in a while, so I'll go Steven Perez-Martin. I feel like Dupont, don't get me wrong, he's a good rugby sevens player. He knows his way around a rugby field. But I feel like the man that's been doing all the back work so that Dupont could shine was Steven Perez-Martin. And, that man doesn't get a lot of credit. He's not as well known. He doesn't get paid as much money. Doesn't have as many fans. Doesn't have as big of a house. But, he works very hard, Steven Perez-Martin. So I'm going to go with him.
Just to be clear, Dupont is he part of the single? Is he? Because I did see him training with the French Sevens team. It was posted on social media, but I don't think he's part of the team.
He has 1 or 2 out, doesn't he? Because I think he's a part of Toulouse's squad.
This is what I'm trying to say. Maybe. Yes, I don't think he's a part of the Singapore one, but maybe he's getting ready for the Madrid one.
For Madrid, yeah.
So that's why I suspect. Yeah, but look, we'll see what happens. Of course, again, for this Pool C, we do have the likes of Fiji, Great Britain, Ireland, and USA, and this may come. I mean, I could actually make a case. This could be the toughest group, actually. I think that we're actually going to have here because I think all 4 of these teams, in all honesty, were pretty impressive, I'd say, throughout Hong Kong. The USA were definitely the one that shocked me the most just because, they didn't have the best of the previous one before Hong Kong. They weren't really amazing, so they kind of came back to Hong Kong like, whoa, they look good. So I actually think the USA will at least finish in the top 2. But again, there's Ireland here just... they've had a great season, and then there's Fiji, where it's just Fiji. They can do anything. But
are they Fiji at the moment? Because
Fiji, this is the thing. I don't know.
Side that have not topped or haven't even been in a bronze medal final.
This is where
in a very long time.
I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna say USA to finish first, Ireland to go second, Fiji to finish third, and then Great Britain to finish 4th. And by the way, Great Britain is not any slabs. They're going to be they're going to definitely compete in this group, I think. So they'll be a tough group. But yeah, I'm for my clarification, by the way, guys, I'm saying Fiji to advance, as well as the Argentina one to advance as well in Pool A. But in terms of my, I guess, ones to watch for this one, gosh, I mean, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the US, I mean, I can honestly just say Perry Baker, because he was just awesome in Hong Kong. That's just a simple choice to a simple choice to make. But if I'm not mistaken, let me just get his name up here, because I want to remind I think where is his name? Lucas Lecap. Lucas Lecap. He wasn't actually playing in Hong Kong, but I think if he is available for the Singapore Sevens, I haven't checked, but if he is available, that'll be a big addition towards that side. So I'm going to say him as my one to watch player. But what about yourself?
I think you're a bit harsh on the Fijians, Tim. No, I'm joking.
Like, just give me a whole spill about, yeah, they haven't been doing well this year, but you know, I'm going to put them as first.
I'm actually going to be honest. I feel like I'm waiting for the big performance, and I feel like it's coming soon, you know. Okay. And I'm ready to be proven wrong, but I've been doing the maths, looking at the stats. The last time the Fijians got a bronze medal or higher was Cape Town. You know how long ago Cape Town was, Tim?
We're looking at the medals now. Yeah. This is how we're going to tell they're going to get in.
Cape Town was a very long time ago, and the Olympics is not too long in the future. So I actually think that the Fijians, they've got a little bit of a different looking lineup. But some of those young guys, I think, have to really step up. And now that they've got a bit of experience under their belt, you know, I think they're going to go all right. So I'm going to say Fiji number 1, Ireland number 2, USA 3, Great Britain 4, but USA go through. So I think we've got almost the exact same teams actually advancing in our quarterfinals.
Yes,
completely the same.
Around But yeah, just quickly then, we're going to do this very rapidly. Name your 4 teams for the semifinals, and then your kind of final, and then your winner.
Okay, well, my key player was Torea Vailawa, but in the semi-finals, I'm going to go with... see, it depends, though, because it depends on who's playing who. You know how unpredictable it can be, because it's all based off first-ranked third-place team, second-ranked third-place team. I'm just going to give you my finalists, and I think it's going to be New Zealand versus Fiji.
New Zealand, Fiji. Okay,
that's just the easy answer, because
you're back in Fiji so many. My God!
And then they're gonna lose to New Zealand, and then it's gonna be a silver medal for the Fijians.
And then who do you think will at least get to? Who do you think the other 2 teams at least? If you just say 2 other ones that get into the semis.
You know,
who were you impressed by in Hong Kong at least? Because that's the best way you can go about it. Just who were the teams? Who were the kind of 2 other teams that were impressive in Hong Kong that you think they can maybe do it again in Singapore?
That's probably a better way of asking. I mean, like France, they seemed all right. You know, they won a couple of their games. They only lost, I think, to the Fijians.
So yeah,
and then South Africa, believe it or not, even though they struggled at times, they still won 3 out of 3 in their group. So
yes, but that quarterfinal, I hated it. It was like they didn't score a point. They didn't do anything. It was just Anyway, I'm not trying to influence you there, but I'm just
I'm going to say France, and I'm going to say Australia through to the semi-finals.
France, Australia. Okay, cool. But yeah, I guess in my 4, I'm definitely going to go with New Zealand. That's 100%, and also France. I think those 2 will definitely get in. The other 2 is definitely up for grabs. I'm actually going to say, well, hopefully the way it works, I'm going to say Australia, and then I'm then going to say USA. That is the 4 I'm going to go with. So yeah, I'm going to say those 4. Just feel it's a good group there. And then sorry, I didn't even name my final. The final will be, I'm going to do this. I'm going to back the USA. I'm going to say the USA will play the likes of Australia, and Australia will win. So yeah, that's my kind of way about it. But
isn't it weird how only a month ago or so we were saying our Argentina's a certain quarterfinalist, and now we're in
it's
the position of
It's
they are now not even considered in that top
We're
four.
not even putting them in our top four. It's just
one player. That's all they've lost. They've lost Marcos Mineta, and now all of a sudden everyone's gone, nah, they haven't got him anymore.
They're not good to anymore. No, they just had that tournament was just Hong Kong was just terrible for them. They just didn't perform to the expectations of what we obviously seen in the previous tournaments. But yeah, there you go, guys. That is the end of the episode there. Episode 51 ended. And again, hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to like the video, guys. We greatly appreciate that. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Check out our respective channels. We greatly appreciate that. I think we will both have live streams going on this week, so check that out. Yeah, just see you guys next time.